welcome back to my channel. It is the start of a new vlog. I have just finished my workday. It's been such a long and busy day and my brain just needs some shut off time at some point very soon. But I had a great day and I've been having a great time reading, and I'm so excited to update you guys on what I'm reading. And so last vlog I had mentioned that I was reading Notes of a Native Son, and that has been my priority morning read. I wanted to also read My Philosophy Now magazine, but as soon as I started getting into the essays in this book, I was just so focused on reading each of these and deciphering them and understanding them. But this really exceeded my expectations. I learned so many things that I was not aware of, and not just pieces of history, but understanding more the African American identity and its roots in history and in media, and so many different elements of things that he covers throughout this book. I am currently the last section of the book, so it's in 3 different sections. The first one has 3 essays that focus on books and films that have shaped the African American identity at that sort of time, and Baldwin's criticisms of those pieces of media. And then in the middle part, so part 2 featured, the first article featured was the Harlem Ghetto, and a lot of this focused on news media and newsprint in Harlem and criticisms on that and observations. Whereas Journey to Atlanta was more of a storytelling moment, a real life encounter from Baldwin's brother that he examines and talks about. And Notes of a Native Son is the title essay, and this one really discusses Baldwin's relationship with his father and how that affected his identity formation. And also all of these essays tie into race identity, into politics. American identity is probably the biggest. American and African American identity are probably the overarching themes for every single one of these essays. I've learned so much that I did not know before at all, especially because living in Canada, we're not taught American history as in depth. All of these themes and observations and historical moments and pieces of media that are taken into account, and all of these essays are so beautifully wrapped up and criticized through Baldwin's beautiful writing. What I'm trying to say is it's written so beautifully, and to the point where I felt when I first started reading this quite intimidated by some of these essays. I had to spend time after each one of these essays reading an analysis and explanation afterwards. I learned so much reading this so far, and I'm almost done. I'm really excited to finish this third part. So the part 3 focuses on essays abroad when he had moved to Paris, and so some of these essays are focusing on his identity abroad and in Europe and how that differs and complexities of it, and probably some of his experiences as well. I've only read 1 essay so far from that section, so I still have 3 more to go and then I'm done. But we're in the home stretch of this book and it is incredible, and I'm not surprised. I'm always pleasantly surprised by Baldwin. I would actually recommend if you want to read James Baldwin to start this and his first fiction as well. So I think this is a great place to start. His debut fiction, my partner is reading right now. Let me grab it. Tell It on the Mountain. I always mix this title up, I don't know why, but Go Tell It on the Mountain, and this edition is so beautiful. There's I think 2 or 3 books from James Baldwin in these editions. They're from Penguin Vintage International, but he's reading this right now, so I think these two paired together, I think, is a great way to read these, but I feel like this really sets the tone for the rest of his work, possibly, and also gives us an understanding of his beginnings. But then I started a new fiction that is Annie John by Jamaica Kincaid. I am around halfway through and I am loving this. I think this month is ending with my reading is really so positive, and I'm having such a great time, and I'm reading writing that I feel very drawn to, and it's just so beautiful. With Jamaica Kincaid, has a way of writing from a child's perspective and of capturing coming of age and childhood and those raw emotions that you feel when you're experiencing certain moments for the first time. This is just such a beautiful book, and I haven't even done it yet, but I would highly recommend it. It is phenomenal. I can see why people recommend her, and yeah, really excited to finish this. My goal is to finish it in the next couple days along with this as well, and then maybe we can pick the next books together. We'll see. But yeah, both of these are so good. I feel like I'm having the best reading this phenomenal nonfiction and this fiction, and I think from now on I'm going to do a routine of reading the nonfiction in the morning and the fiction at night. I also read during lunchtime, but today I didn't even get a chance to have lunch. Today was chaos, so yeah. I've eaten now, so I am functioning again. Thank God. But yeah, I'll check in with you guys later this week. Weeks since I started this vlog. There's quite a few gaps in time, and there's a number of reasons. Work really got the best of me during the first 2 weeks that I was filming this, and I ended up getting sick after that. My reading also slowed down a bit, so I was waiting until I finished the 2 books that I was reading to get back to you guys, and I have finally finished them a few days ago and picked my TBR for the rest of March and a little bit into April, since I'm kind of starting them late. The nice thing is that I'm treating this year as an intuitive reading year, and so I'm really following my intuition on what I want to read, also things that align with my creative journey or research that I'm doing. And you'll see that in some of the March TBR picks that I picked. They reflect a lot of those themes that I want to keep exploring. And finishing up Jamaica Kincaid's Annie John and James Baldwin's Notes of a Native Son really honed in what I was craving in writing, and also what I've really been appreciating, especially when it comes to being challenged. I feel like I don't give myself enough credit. I'm my own worst critic. I've always been that way, and so I get really intimidated by themes I haven't read from, or because I find that might be too challenging for me, which is really, it ends up being this ridiculous thing that I've created in my mind, because when I finally get into reading something more challenging, I have such a great time. It's so rewarding. I love having to look things up if I don't understand them. It really expands my knowledge and expands my understanding of different human experiences and different lives that people live around the world. And so, anyway, I finished both of these books finally. I wrote some down so I could actually speak about them in a more detailed way. I find that when I go to turn on the camera, my social anxiety skyrockets, and I think that is one of the things that keeps a lot of people away from creating YouTube videos or TikTok videos, is just not being able to speak when the camera's turned on because they're too anxious. So I'm trying to combat that by writing my thoughts down, and that way hopefully I can make videos more consistently. Anyway, Notes of a Native Son. James Baldwin is just a brilliant essayist. I also think reading James Baldwin chronologically from release date is actually probably the best way to read him, if I'm being honest with myself, because it really opened my eyes, gave me more background knowledge on the themes he's discussing and some of the historical moments that I just wasn't educated on. This book is separated into 3 parts, and the first 3 were primarily essays on different pieces of media, and these really shaped the African American identity as a whole in media, and then became an internalized identity for African American people, because this is how they were represented and perpetuated in media. Just seeing James Baldwin tie all these historical pieces of media and dive into the complexities of the African American identity and also the American identity was just very eye-opening. I learned a lot. I had to Google quite a few of these things. This book was written in the 50s, and it does reference a lot of stuff that happened in the 40s and the 50s, early 50s, so that was a little bit challenging, but he's such a beautiful writer and is very powerful in his word choice and his pacing in his essays, and so I found that really captivating. In part 2, he goes through some essays that examine the different neighborhoods, and also the titular essay called Notes of a Native Son, which probably was one of the most impactful ones for me that I read. It really dives into his relationship with his father and really explains a lot of what was going on in his brain as a child and the dynamics in his family and how he grew up. And then part 3, he goes into his essays abroad, which I found really fascinating as well. And the last essay being the one that was really intriguing to me, that really stood out to me. All of these were phenomenal. I wouldn't say there's a single one to skip over, because they all inform the next essay in a way and expand on his arguments essentially and his analyses. So I would recommend reading all of them. I think one of the things that really stood out to me was the way he was able to examine the American identity and the African American identity separately and also intertwined into each other throughout. One quote I would love to share is, "The making of an American begins at that point where he himself rejects all other ties, any other history, and himself adopts the vesture of his adopted land," which felt so relatable in a way, especially as an immigrant. I think that this aspect of the American identity didn't really dissipate anywhere. Another incredible quote at the very end of the book ties that beginning quote together. Yet if the African American has arrived at his identity by virtue of absoluteness, of his estrangement from his past, American white men still nourish the illusion that there is some means of recovering the European innocence, of returning to a state in which black men do not exist. This, what a quote, what a way to wrap that up. And that is in the final couple pages of the last essay. This is just a phenomenal book, and I cannot wait to read more James Baldwin. One thing too to note was that there was random elements of humor in this, which really helped his personality shine throughout the essays, which was really interesting. Yeah, there were a few times where I was just cackling at some of the things he wrote, which was really interesting when he's tackling such heavy subject matter. Everything that he said in this book is so relevant today, and I don't want anyone to feel intimidated by reading nonfiction essays. I think these are some of the most important ways to consume knowledge. I think my goal with James Baldwin going forward is to read the rest of his stuff chronologically and see how I feel and see how it expands from this first book into his following books. Incredible writer. And then we have Annie John by Jamaica Kincaid. This was such a beautiful read. It's so short, and I wish, honestly, that it was longer. This is the first time I felt so far this year that a book needed to be longer, because I was really enjoying this experience and connecting to it. And I think as much as it was a lens into coming of age in Antigua during post-colonial times, it also was very universal in the coming of age experience, especially centering the relationship between her and her mother. So realistic how it explores the complexities of our relationship with our mothers and how our perspectives on our moms change as we grow older. They go from being our whole entire center of the universe as children to possibly negative experiences as we're teenagers and growing and hormonal and rebellious. It just feels like such a full circle experience. Just thinking about that and just thinking about the relationship between Annie John and her mother was just such a beautiful reading experience and quite emotional and nostalgic. There's so many moments in this too that are just so youthful and also heartbreaking in their own way. There's so many moments of Annie kind of coming to certain realizations as she grows up that are so skewed by her young limiting beliefs and perspectives and everything, and so many moments that are so heartbreaking, and you just want to hug her and tell her, no, it's not this way, this is not what this means, and tell her everything is going to be okay. We also get to watch her identity develop throughout this novel, which was really fun to watch. Her morals, her values, her experiences, her friendships too, and how they evolve and change over time, which was also another really relatable aspect. I think this book as a whole is very relatable. Another thing I really enjoyed reading about was the setting of Antigua, seeing the way neighbors, teachers, friends interact with each other, the beautiful settings. We also get a glimpse of the spirit of Antigua in the 1980s and post-colonial education, which was really interesting. And one moment that made me chuckle in this book was learning about Christopher Columbus, and there's a photo of him in chains in this history novel that they're reading from, and Annie John goes ahead and writes over in the textbook, the great man can no longer just get up and go, because he was titled The Great Man, and that just made me laugh so hard. Overall, you're speaking for all of us when we all learned about Christopher Columbus. It was just such a great moment, and there's so many other elements of humor in this, and it was just such a great read. I love books like this. I would love to read more like this, and I definitely will be reading more Jamaica Kincaid because her writing is so beautiful, and I'm so excited I finished this. Finished both of these. Oops, I keep smacking myself in the face with books today. Both of these were phenomenal. I'm so happy to have read them. And so I am also very excited to move on to some of my books that I've really been gravitating towards, that I've been thinking about, that I really want to explore. These are the books that I've been wanting to read, and I will go through them really quickly so this vlog isn't too long. I also have my e-reader here because I downloaded a book on my e-reader, but I'll just get started quickly. I recently have been working on a script. I'm very much in the beginning stages of just expanding on an idea that I have and in the research stages of the script. And so I found a book that had some elements of things that I wanted to explore, especially because some of my work will be exploring grief. And so I wanted to read a variety of different works that kind of dive into the theme of grief, life, death, and all of that. And so I found this experimental psychology book after doing some research, and it's called The Worm at the Core, on the Role of Death in Life. And it's meant to be quite experimental and have different elements of psychology, philosophy ingrained in it. And I find that really fascinating for my research in particular, because a lot of the symbolism and elements that I want included in my work, I would like to expand on further. And so I love being able to do research into the themes even further from many different avenues and perspectives. And so I ended up getting this book, and I'm really excited to get into it and see if it helps expand some of my story. And then these are the 4 physical books. We've got Notes of a Crocodile. This is my book club pick for March and April. If you're interested in joining, I will provide a link down below. It's on Fable, but I'm really excited to get into this. It is set in post-martial law era of 1980s Taipei. It's a coming-of-age story of group of queer misfit friends as they're, I believe, attending a prestigious university, started studying art. And so their artistic affinities, their artistic processes, experiences, and aspects of love. And I'm really excited. I'm pretty sure this has an experimental structure to it. It's written in notebooks. Each chapter is a different notebook, I guess. I'm not sure, but I'm excited to get into this. This is probably the first thing I'll get into. Then we have The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion. I've been wanting to read a Joan Didion this year, and so I was expecting to start with the White Album, but this really follows the theme of grief that I'm studying for my own work, so I thought this would be a great jump into those themes. Then we have The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson. I've been wanting to read this for quite some time, and honestly, I also just really want to continue to read stuff outside of my bubble of things that I usually read or and perspectives I haven't read from before. And this is a genre-bending memoir, according to premise here, and it explores Nelson's relationship with her fluidly gendered partner and journey through pregnancy, an exploration of sexuality and gender and family, which is really interesting. And then lastly, we have The Bridge on the Drina by Ivo Andrić, and I've been feeling very, in a way, nostalgic and a little homesick, And so I've been wanting to read something from my side of the world, but I'm really excited to get into this and dive more into different historical things that maybe I didn't even know about, and dive into the generations of communities that surround this bridge, which is kind of the main focus of the novel, and the communities surrounding it. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and let me know if you guys are interested in any film reviews as well. If you want more lifestyle content too, I can do more of that and give you guys more of a realistic take on my life and what I do, and maybe even artistic vlogs, capturing my creative process. I could also dive into art books or books on the creative process. Anyway, I'm excited to dive into a new vlog. I feel like I'm ready to move away from this one because it's been so many weeks. I'm sorry. Anyway, I am so glad that you guys are here and still watching this, and appreciate you guys. Thanks, guys. All right, I'll see you guys soon.